Out in the garage today, working on the Suzuki lt230e quad runner restoration project for my son's quad. I'm taking the shocks apart and I just want to make a video on how to do that. I use this kit here, made by Tusk. You can get them on eBay. There's a couple different kinds on eBay, so be careful which one you get. I think these are like 35 bucks. Somebody has a cheaper one for like 26 or 27, but don't get that one. I read up on it, and it's actually made for motorcycle springs, which I guess aren't as stiff as the ATV springs. And they even tell you right in there it's for motorcycle springs only. So get this guy out here. So comes with this nice metal case, and then you got your two spring compressors. They give you a couple extra plastic pieces for here in case these break or whatever, which I'm sure they will after a while. I used them once already. As you can see, I did the one front shock, and this is the other one that I'm going to do the video on to show you how it works. So basically, you got your spring, you got your upper plate, you got a lower plate, and then this is your adjustment. Bolts, obviously. Shield, plastic, and then the shock. The reason I'm taking these apart mostly is because I'm restoring it and I want to sandblast them and paint them to make them look nice, newer. But something I want to show you on the shock here, if you want to check to see if the shock is good, I'm trying to pull this out now. Alright, so I got that fully extended now. What you got to remember is this is a oil-filled shock or a hydraulic shock. It's not a gas shock. So you would think, oh, geez, I want to test the shock, so I'm going to compress it like that. And hey, wait a minute, nothing's popping back out. It's not supposed to pop back out. It's not a gas shock. Again, it's a hydraulic or oil shock. But what you do want to check for to make sure the shock is good is to make sure that you don't see any oil leaking anywhere. And pull this back out a little bit. And I know it, you know, they're old shocks. Maybe all the oil leaked out years ago, and you know, so you don't see any oil. But I don't see any on here. And also, what you want to do is fully extend this out, which it took effort for me to pull that out. So that tells me right there that that thing, it's still full of oil. And when I go to push it down, it should push down semi-easily, but there should still be some resistance, which this one has. So there's nothing wrong with this shock. If you were able to take this thing and pull it in and out with ease, then at some point you lost all your oil, and that shock's not doing you any good. But that one's good, and I'm hoping that this one ends up being good. So I'm going to get working on the other one. I'll be back. Okay, so I got these started, and I'm going to try to get a close-up here. Basically, you want to get in somewhere, obviously, where this piece is going to fit in between the springs. As the spring gets down towards the bottom, they get wider. So this end here, obviously, a little bit easier to get on. Here, you kind of have to press it in there, but you'll get it. You want to keep them basically 180 degrees apart, like so. And again, just make sure you get that in there all the way so that the black piece there is actually set into it. And 11/16 fits this. It might be metric, but a little bit of playing it, but my ratcheting wrench fits in there pretty good. So basically, you're going to want to go back and forth from one side to the next and start compressing that spring. Do it 6 to 8 times, and then 6 to 8 times or so on the other side. And you just keep going back and forth, and you're going to watch this spring start to compress. But keep checking, make sure that everything's still in place. You don't want one of these popping off and hitting you in the head. And these things are going to want to tend to move on you a little bit too. So what I do is I just grasp it like that. tightening. Okay, so eventually you're going to get to a point where the spring is compressed, and you can see how freely that's turning now. So now what you want to do, this top plate right here, it's got a notch in it, as you can see, because it actually just fell out already. But that notch is obviously so you can get that out. Set that to the side, and you got to have this compressed enough where to get that plate out where it'll be where the stem of the shock is, so it'll fall out. If it's not compressed enough, you won't be able to get it out because of this rubber bushing right here. But so make sure you compress it enough within reason. All right, so now this should slide right off. Okay, so as I was saying, I had to take it out of the vise. This should slide right off now. So basically, you got your shock, and now you got your compressed spring. So now you just got to put this on the bench, and then take your wrench and just go in the opposite direction, obviously. Slowly loosen these back up. Again, do it the same way that you compressed it. Do 8-10 turns here, 8-10 turns there. Eventually, this thing will loosen up, and your spring will be all the way extended, and you don't have to worry about that being under pressure and popping off and smacking you in the head or something. So that's it in a nutshell. You got your plates here. Now all this stuff can come off. It's your ring. That's your adjuster, if you can see that. And now you can do what you got to do. Clean these up, paint them, replace them, whatever it is you're doing.